Hey guys, how's it going? So we're in the raised bed vegetable garden right now, kind of vegetable slash flower garden because we're going to be working with flowers today. We're going to be digging up some ranunculus corms and getting them ready for storage. So we have ranunculus in this bed and in that bed there. We've got two varieties that still are fairly decent, like they haven't died back enough. I may leave those for the next week or two, but we have, and this one's salmon, this one's white picotee, this one is labelle champagne, this one's definitely ready to come out. And then we've got a variety called Rose right here and Marshmallow in the back there. This is perfect. This is kind of what you want them to look like when they're ready to come out. Yellowed leaves, they start to dry up and die back. So we treat these an awful lot like we do daffodils or tulips. After they're done blooming, you can go in and deadhead them if you want to, but we always leave the leaves until they start to yellow and die back, because while they're still living and green, they're still soaking in sunlight, which turns into energy, which feeds the bulb, or the corm in this case, for next year's bloom. It makes them more robust, have more energy for the next year's bloom crop. So most of my ranunculus are at that stage right now, and I really want to make way for some other things. I want to get some ornamental corn planted in here and possibly some cosmos. I haven't decided yet, but I think we'll go ahead and do that today if we have time as well. So this process is pretty easy. I'll probably not pull all of them. I'll probably dig them with something just to make sure I don't accidentally damage anything. But you can see here, I started off with one corm and it looks like I may end up with three. But what I'm gonna do is get them all dug today, and then I'm gonna spread them out so that they can dry for a couple of days, and then I'll be able to kind of clean off any excess soil. The thing is, we usually do, it's kind of like with garlic, getting it ready to store. You wanna make sure that anything that's clinging to those bulbs or the corms has dried up, because we don't wanna store them with excess moisture around them, because we don't want them to rot. And that's the thing, the reason why we have to dig them here is because they will not survive our winters here. If we leave them in the ground, they have a higher likelihood of possibly rotting or something digging them up. I mean, we have voles and gophers and things like that. No, I don't want them to be eaten. So I feel like as long as they've soaked in the energy for the year, if we get them dug up and stored, then next winter or late winter, early spring, I can do the whole pre-soak and replanting process. This is the first time I have ever stored them though. So this will be a little bit of an experiment. From everything that I have read and researched, it just says to get them cleaned up, dried off, and then you can just store them in a place where you would store other seeds, somewhere cool and dry. So that seems pretty easy to me. We're gonna see how this is gonna go. Yeah, so I'm really interested to see if these corms, do they come apart easily? I don't know. Oh, see, there's one. I broke the top off the other one. Let's see if I can get them apart. Yeah, look at that. So I have 3 corms here from where I started with 1. That's so exciting. I love it. So anyway, I need to go grab some baskets and a shovel. Just picked up these awesome baskets at a consignment shop. I think we'll try these out. Oh, Benjamin. Mercy. I really need to clean out the back of the gator. All right, so I've got my 3 baskets, kneeling pad, my shovel, and we're gonna be digging these 3 varieties. So let's just get it done. Okay, so here's our 3 baskets of ranunculus that we're going to take into the barn here in a minute. And I'll do a little bit more clearing of these beds and kind of smoothing out the soil before we plant something else. I'll probably also take out the super hoops, which these, you guys, I got at Gardener's Supply. And you can make them small, you can make them a lot bigger than that. They come with connector pieces. So I made them as small as I could for this application, because when I very first planted the ranunculus, I did put harvest cloth, or the frost protection cloth, over it so that they would trap in a little more heat and grow a little faster, and I think that that was worth it. But at this point, because I think I'm going to plant corn in this bed, I need them to be gone. So I'll take these out. They should be pretty easy just to, yeah, pop right up. Yep, we'll store those in the barn. And I just did a test of the drip system. I had a sneaking suspicion that it was not working properly. And so it's on right now, and you can see at the beginning, think you can see it dripping right there. But if you follow it all the way to the end ones are not dripping. Like, and it gets slower and slower as you get toward the end. So I think I'm gonna replace the drip in this bed before we do a new crop. And I think same story over here. This is the end of the run here. It runs through this whole bed and it's not running at all out of the end of this tubing. A little bit right here. See a little bit of moisture. Super weird. They were running great at the beginning of the season, and sometimes that just happens. Our hard water buildup is pretty bad. Sometimes you can kind of see in there and it's kind of white. They might just be completely plugged. Let's take these into the barn first and get them all spread out so they can dry. So again, I wanted to show you a corm up close. It's so crazy to me that something so pretty comes from this. But this was planted as a single corm, and it looks like it has turned into two nice ones and a third kind of small one. So you can see that one right there. And then these will just ease apart if we can. Yep. Just like that. Here's another one right here. Looks like there's 4 stems, but I don't know if we're gonna get 4 corms. So we're gonna separate these. So here's perfect. Here are 2. And 2 more. So 4 from that single corm. Okay, so I got each individual variety sitting on its own burlap sack here on the floor in the barn, right next to where all the garlic is drying right now. Everything's looking really good right now. And I'd say that I at least tripled the amount of corms that I planted in the ground, because I was averaging about 3 corms per single corm that I planted. So I had 3 in the clump when I dug them up. Some of them actually had 4, some of them had 2. So I'd say it's a safe average to say we tripled. So again, this is what a ranunculus corm looks like right here, kind of like a little octopus, almost like mini dahlia tuber clumps, honestly. That's kind of exactly what they look like, just in miniature form. And they are prolific like dahlias as well. I'm very pleased with that. So these corms are gonna hang out on the barn floor for the next 2 to 3 days or so, maybe 4 to 5 days, depending on how long it takes me to get back out here. And then after, a few days, I'll come in and I'll cut off all of the leaves and stems. I'll brush off some of the dirt. I'll leave some dirt on there so long as it's dry. And then I'll get them ready for storage, in which case I'll probably just put them in, honestly, one of those crates that I stored our dahlias in, and I'll store them probably the same way, just in layers of vermiculite. I'll make sure that they have their labels with them. And then we'll do the next 2 varieties once those look a little bit more dried down. And I am so excited that I have so many more corms than I started with. I would really like to get to a point where I can plant a whole bunch of them out in the cut flower garden. They're the perfect crop because you can start them early, you get a nice early harvest, and then I have plenty of time to grow pretty much whatever I want. Like at this time last year, I was still, I think, planting dahlias in the ground at this point. We have a very long growing season though, so I can usually get away with that. Last year, mid-July, I was planting cosmos, nasturtiums, marigolds, morning glory, amaranth, what else? Bachelor's buttons, lots of stuff from seed, and I still got a wonderful harvest. So anyway, that's kind of why I was anxious to get these out of the ground so that I could start something else, and that's what we're gonna go work on now. I'm gonna grab drip supplies so I can run new drip, biotone, a little bit of compost, and then my seeds. Okay, so here's what I think I'm gonna do. In this bed here, I'm gonna plant the glass gem corn, ornamental corn. I've got zeolites, calendula, and I'm not sure how many seeds are in there, but I'm either gonna plant those in this small section or actually in this larger section where I just harvested garlic. Then I've got petite marigolds, which I'm gonna seed around my tomatoes. May as well, I've got drip in there. And then I've also got a couple varieties of nasturtiums, which will go either there or there, depending on where the calendula ends up. But first, a little bit of compost, starter fertilizer, and then I brought out new drip line as well. Just ran a 1-minute test to make sure all the drip tubing works. And you can see at the very end there, it's dripping out really nicely. Perfect. So I did biotone in the soil, ran my drip tubing kind of right by where I wanted to plant the corn. I did 3 rows of corn. And now I'm gonna top dress and just kind of cover all the drip tubing and all of the soil with compost. Okay, I got them all planted. I'll run over what I ended up putting where in just a second, but I just had to show you the Sweet Romance lavender out here. This hedge is always so pretty out here. I love it. And it's actually fun that we still have a little bit of color from the ranunculus left. But in the front here, now I did not mulch over the top of this drip tubing because I basically cut the drip tubing from the rest of the bed and pulled it all out and ran it to the spot where I could see. So I'll just be supplementing this until they die back, which should be really quick. And I'm gonna have to be out here supplementing anyway until the seeds come up, so it's not gonna be a big deal. But I did 2 rows of the black velvet nasturtiums here, 2 rows of the peach nasturtium, which I only had enough seed to do that many. There weren't very many seeds in those packets. Did 3 rows of the glass gem corn. Now you do have to be a little bit careful with corn in terms of cross-pollination. If you planted a couple different varieties right next to each other at the same time, they will cross-pollinate. So you want to make sure that you are spreading them apart far enough or staggering their planting. So I've done both. I've read, and I'm not sure that this is true, but you have to spread them out ideally 100 yards from each other, so a football field, which mine are definitely more than a football field. My ambrosia is away from these raised beds, so I think we'll be okay. Plus my ambrosia is already up like 6 inches and this is just planted, so I think they'll be blooming at different times. Then around the tomato plants, Benjamin and I planted the petite marigolds, which should be just a really cute little short marigold. Right in here, the zeolites calendula, which I got from Floret. Beautiful, like peachy colored calendula with a dark eye. I'm really looking forward to that. I just noticed how much this board is bowing. My word. And then over on this other side where we've got the other 2 tomatoes, we went ahead and did a ring of the petite marigolds as well. Really quick look at what else we've got going on. We've got the amazel basil in that bed just planted. We've got onions in here. These onions I thought died. These are some of the ones that we planted from seed a long time ago. I think these are all Walla Wallas. Anyway, they're starting to bulb up and looking good. So I'm happy about that. We've got beans in this bed. Couple of them didn't come up. No big deal though, because I planted them pretty thick anyway. So they're looking great. This is the only available spot at the moment. I did not plant that up today because I got to figure out what I need to put here based on what I have left to plant out in the flower garden. We've got carrots here, white bunching onions I started from seed and from bulbs, both in this bed. On the back side of this bed, we've got some golden beets. I pulled the kale that was right here, so I technically have room to plant something right there as well. We've got the red cabbage, and then of course everything we just went over. So we'll have this space available here pretty quick, and the anemones as well. So those are still kind of blooming, like there's still fresh blooms down in here. Like it's kind of crazy to me. They just keep on churning out blooms, and the leaves still look really good. So we'll just let them keep going. And then in this bed we have a nice big volunteer sunflower. Isn't that awesome? And more onions and a few strawberry plants, kind of a menagerie. And then my potted chives that has been out here for like, I don't know, since we moved here, it feels like. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I just wanted to make sure to show you what I'm doing with my ranunculus corms. I'm gonna do the same thing with my anemones once they are spent. And also, I hope that maybe for those of you who haven't started your garden space yet, I mean, there are years like that, right? Where it's just, it feels like it gets too far in the season and it's not worth planting, but we still have time. I hope that you feel encouraged maybe by seeing these seeds go in the ground today, that you still have time to get out there and plant some things. I mean, last year I was planting all kinds of stuff, cucumbers, zucchini. I did a short day corn. We did beans, beets, what else? I did kale and chard, carrots, and then a whole bunch of flowers. I mean, you can look at our video from it was last July when I was planting, so it was even like a month ahead of where we're at now. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.